this week, a few stories have been going around about a certain Achraf Hakimi and his wife, or not to be for that much longer because she's seeking a divorce from the Moroccan international. A couple of different outlets have been claiming that she's not entitled to anything, they've gone to court, and she's since realized that she can't get the 50% of his earnings, or 50% of his property basically, that you usually get from a divorce, because he's put all of his money, all of his resources in his own mum's name. I knew the kid was a mummy's boy, but come on, this takes the biscuit. And it would of course mean that he has basically just £0 in his bank account all the time. Now, I can relate to that as much as the next man. But is this story true? Is it a complete hoax? And more importantly, we need to shine a light on the darker side of this story and why exactly Achraf Hakimi's wife is leaving him. So this all started when Barstool Football tweeted out, never a great start to a sentence where you're looking for credible sources. They tweeted out claiming this story. Basically, Achraf Hakimi had put all of his money, all of his possessions in his own mum's name, and then when his wife had gone to seek the divorce in a court of law, had found out she wasn't entitled to anything because none of his earnings from football, from his PSG wages, from any of his sponsorships, or even any of his possessions like his house, cars, whatever, were in his own name and were instead in his own mum's. So obviously this is very unusual. Usually when you go through any sort of divorce, I mean, I've not been through one, can't lie to you, but the divorcees are then entitled to different amounts of wealth that they've both earned. You know, the wife can claim for 50%, and I can imagine this would cause an uproar in the courts, I'm not gonna lie. Achraf himself would have been delighted if he was to see the payout that she was getting in the end. The judge, unfortunately, is not gonna be able to offer out a huge amount of compensation for those involved.
I've got 50p. Fuck you, bastard.
But like, think about this as a situation. This would cause so many problems for Achraf as well. Can you imagine when he gets the invoice through for his legal fees and he's still got 47p in his bank account?
I ain't got that sort of money.
I'm not paying 13 quid.
The man wouldn't be able to afford the bus journey to court, skipping barriers like he's trying to get on the Bakerloo line. Him and Kylian Mbappe will be waiting in the shops afterwards so his mum can buy them some sweets instead. Like, it's just not realistic for his mum to have all of his money. He's gonna be furious when he finds out she spent it all on scented candles. This is what mums do. Half of those wages would have gone on curtains by now. Still driving to train him, to pick him up like he's in year 7 in a gold encrusted Range Rover. I know I've taken this from quite a light-hearted spin so far because that's what I do. That's how I deal with these sorts of situations. But as I mentioned at the start of the vid, there really is a deeper side to this I don't think people are really understanding. I mean, from the get-go, lads, I hate to burst the bubble right here, though I'm sure the fact that it's come from Barstool Football should be enough to burst the bubble anyway. They don't report anything that's accurate ever. And just a word of warning, yeah, if you ever see a story, a quote, a piece of information, even video evidence that comes from Barstool Football, it's probably fabricated. From the get-go, I don't think people understand how, like, not legal this would be. Like, think about it. Everyone would just do this if this was legal. There's no way the French courts would allow this. You'd have people rioting in the street and it doesn't even involve them. Every single person in the world would do this just in case they got divorced. It's like tax evasion at the very least, and just not legal when it comes to marital situations. It's not something that would be like crazily criminal, but if you got found out, you're done. You're losing half your property and the wife would still have a claim anyway. All this story is gonna do is have people thinking they can just pass all of their problems and assets over to their mum until the police come knocking at mumsy's house.
Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us.
To be honest, for what it's worth, I don't think a partner should be immediately entitled to 50% of someone's assets and earnings if they haven't contributed to those assets and earnings being built up, if that makes sense. This might be a controversial take, I have no idea, but I feel like there should be like maybe like an element of a percentage that's defined maybe by how long the partners have been together. But either way, in this situation, even still, you know, these two have been together since, I want to say 2020, and Hakimi wasn't even a PSG player in 2020. So the law is that once you get married, like that is quite literally, lads, what you sign up for when you get married to someone. It's not really been covered at all by any main UK media outlets. I've seen Marca, the Spanish outlet, talk about it a little bit, and I've seen one news outlet in the UK talk about it, but very much containing it as rumors rather than something that they believe that's happened. And that's because it hasn't happened, lads. And either way, the massive elephant in the room, to be honest with you, outside of all of this, the fact of the matter is there are some pretty serious charges hanging over Achraf Hakimi's head right now that would be enough to test and challenge any sort of relationship or any sort of marriage. We'll have to wait for the criminal justice system to do its job, but at the very least, Achraf Hakimi cheated on his wife. Bro, why? Of course she's gonna get divorced to him. What are you talking about? This man needed an Excel spreadsheet to get women in and out of his house. Of course the relationship is done. Regardless of the charges, I'm not gonna talk about them a huge amount because, again, it hasn't gone through the criminal system at all, like, yet. Of course his wife was frustrated when she found out and came down into the living room.
And you're an adulterer when you had, excuse me.
And I'll be honest, I've seen a lot of glorification or glorifying of what Achraf Hakimi's done here, of this sort of like top G mentality. Oh yeah, you frauded your wife and now you've kept all your money. Even though, again, as we stated in the first half of the video, definitely not legal to do that, so that hasn't happened. And irregardless, the guy's been a hoe. You just got affirmed that your relationship's over if you can't act correctly. I don't know, I hope I'm not making light of this, like, consistently with my tone, because it is obviously a very serious issue. I'm not going into the properly serious stuff today in terms of the charges, but I don't know, it makes me feel a bit weird when I'm seeing a lot of tweets about this situation and people are like talking up of him as being a king. Like, the guy's been praised by Andrew Tate in the week. That's not something that you want to happen. All right, yeah, so basically, lads, Achraf's a G, I'm bald. If you want to be bald like me, then fucking hell. I don't even know if his PSG teammates are gonna back him here, to be honest with you. Lionel Messi will just be distracted in the courtroom. Neymar will be escorted out of there for trying to chirp his estranged wife. Either way, since then, Barstool have either taken the tweet and the story down or they've gone private on Twitter. That either way indicates they were probably chatting out of their arse. I'm really surprised at the response that I've seen to this story, given a lot of people do have the knowledge of the charges that are hanging over Hakimi's head here. You know, I know there was the whole story of him at the World Cup. I think before these charges were brought to public attention, he did come across as quite a likable footballer, like just a constantly smiley face. He's an exciting footballer to watch, but he might have done something really fucking bad. We haven't found out yet, so I just feel like stuff like this probably doesn't deserve the reaction that it's got in such a positive sense. So yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about it just because I've not really seen many people talk about it from a perspective of knowing that it's probably not true, and at the very least not react angrily to his wife for wanting to break up with him for very reasonable reasons. But that's just my thoughts on the situation. Again, when it comes to the legal stuff, we will have to wait and see. But stories and cases like this are always very traumatic for the victim, so I would at least ask people to bear that in mind when talking about this sort of stuff on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Either way, that'll be it for today's video. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do. It's at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. I'll be maybe talking about some more of this sort of stuff over there. But ladies and gentlemen, have a great day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.